Valda Twaddle would indeed be gratified to know that the trust fund established in her name continues to recognise and financially assist those smaller, lesser-known, not-for-profit groups and organisations who've dedicated themselves to caring for others. Receiving 2012 Valda Twaddle Trust Awards tonight are two occupational therapists, one of whom works with dementia patients, while another is involved in assisting those who are physically challenged. Another award recipient will demonstrate a device that will revolutionise the independence of the visually impaired. We'll meet two beautiful battlers who are as much in love today as they were 54 years ago. And finally, we'll hear from a 14-year-old boy who wants to save the orangutans in Borneo. Occupational therapist Karen Cox knows only too well the enormous emotional and physical difficulties faced by those caring for dementia patients.
The residential support program is a small team of professional workers, so a psychologist, a social worker, a couple of nurses, and myself, an occupational therapist. We work at Peter James Centre, and we're a secondary consult service for residential care facilities. Our role is to assist primarily the staff with the management of challenging behaviours. Sometimes those behaviours are caused by mental illness, but much of our work is working with residents with dementia. Dementia is a terminal illness, and there is a gradual, or for some people a very rapid, deterioration in cognition, which is your memory, your thinking, planning, problem solving and judgment. The most well-known one is Alzheimer's type dementia, and that is very specifically where the entire brain globally deteriorates. So you have a shrinkage of the brain because you have loss of cells over many, many years. So all aspects of brain function deteriorate, and that can take up to 10 years. And then you have dementias such as those that affect the frontal lobes of the brain only. They often start with what appears to be the midlife crisis, particularly say for men, where they drop the wife, buy the sports car, spend all their money, get the new younger girlfriend and so on. But over a period of time you would see more and more less subtle changes in their behaviour. Their memory may stay intact, but their ability to plan and to make reasonable judgments and to problem solve will be grossly impaired. So they all present in a different way and have their own set of complications. There is quite a bit of use and information about the use of sensory rooms, which cover all sensory modalities. So it'll have coloured lights, fibre optic cables, things flashing around the walls, soft things to cuddle, rocking chairs, beautiful music playing, an oil burner, things like that. Very few nursing homes actually have them, and they're incredibly expensive to set up. So vibration or vestibular input is only one component of the sensory system. I'm wanting to trial them with clients who are at very late stage dementia, and they have distressed and distressing vocalising, which means they have what appears to be like a vocal tic, where they might call out or they screech or they call help me, help me, help me, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and nothing can turn them off. And if that's the case, then we have to do behavioural analysis and work out whether this person may be reacting to understimulation or, at the other end of the spectrum, overstimulation. And vibration is to tap into that understimulation.
Anita Mumme also works in occupational therapy. Anita's patients are those who fiercely cherish their independence, but whose living conditions must be adapted to accommodate physical disability.
Occupational therapists are involved in many different fields, so I'll speak about what I have been involved with the couple we're going to be speaking about. And that's to make people as functional and safe as possible and as independent as possible. So it's looking at whatever the injury is or disability, whether it's a physical or psychiatric illness. Occupational therapists work with helping people to become as independent as possible. And with Maria and Troy, who we'll be discussing, they are a couple who live independently but need to have things modified so that they're able to operate by themselves independently and to be safe. They are a remarkable couple. They're a couple who they have different disabilities. I know that they don't mind me mentioning that Maria has osteogenesis imperfecta and Troy has spina bifida. He is totally wheelchair dependent and Maria can stand and weight bear, but they are both wheelchair dependent and they manage totally independently in their own unit, which is a pretty remarkable feat with very limited outside support. It's fragile bones, so it's something you're born with. There was no history of it in Maria's family at all. She said to me that she'd had 150 fractures, bone fractures. They're a couple in their 40s, so it's a lot of fractures in a short life. They're just both very brave, intelligent, outgoing social people who provide their input into the community as well, because they're both involved in community activities. The kitchen's 13 years old, it needed upgrading. So Maria asked me if I'd remain involved and work with the architect to design the kitchen for their needs. It's very important that everything's right. The bench heights are right, the open spaces are right for wheelchairs, for leg space, for sliding hot pots off a cooktop onto a bench that you don't have to lift something heavy and hot, because they do their own cooking. They needed an oven, a wall oven that's at the right height for them, that the door slides down and out of the way. Because they're both in wheelchairs, they can't lift a hot pot, put it on their knee obviously and move their wheelchair to where they want to go, so they have to have benches at the right space. So that's one thing. The other is that the kitchen is small and the exhaust, although there is an exhaust in the kitchen over the cooktops, there's not a lot of ventilation and they can't open the window because they can't reach it. So the other thing was an electrically operated window that they can remotely control and open to get some fresh air in there. So they were the main things that we'd be looking at for them. It makes a big difference to their lives.
Anne Eldridge, Executive Officer with the Lions Visual Independence Foundation, says the Valda Twaddle Trust Award will provide one of her visually impaired clients with the kind of information she never had access to before.
The foundation began in 2010 when it became a national foundation with Lions clubs, and what it does is provides technology for blind and visually impaired people right across our country. So what we do is we actually find and source that technology, and we have 2 products at the present time. And then, of course, with technology, it's always being upgraded, and it is always usually expensive, and even more expensive when it has to be specially adapted for people with a disadvantage, and so therefore it's very expensive. The biggest one and the most exciting one is the talking barcode reader, the ID Mate. This is a small model. It has a wide scanning head on it. It has raised buttons, and basically what it does is it reads barcodes on all household products and all pharmaceutical items as well. When it's in ID mode, it actually picks up the barcode, and there are 2.2 million barcodes actually built into this at the present time, and we're updating the database again. The visually impaired or blind person just picks up the product, and you've got about a foot.
Product code, Coca-Cola soft drink 600 millilitre.
And then they can actually tell whether they've got either a lemonade or they've got a Coke or what type of bottle it is. And it's especially helpful for pharmaceutical products and also household and cleaning products as well. The biggest thing on this new product is the currency. It reads currency for Australian notes, and that's something that is very hard for visually impaired or blind people, because sometimes they get tricked, unfortunately, and they get very worried about what notes they're handing over. And this one, it'll actually read whether it's a $50 note or a 20 or a 10 or a 5. It's invented by the American Army for Gulf War soldiers originally, and it's made in America. The barcodes in Australia and in different countries are all different. So it was difficult to bring it out to Australia because you needed somebody to load the databases on. We find grants for $1,200 and then the recipient pays $200.
In this case, the recipient is a young lady by the name of Nicole, I think.
Yes, Nicole. She's just a wonderful person. She lives with a lovely family and she's very, very independent, tries to work when she can. She has a guide dog and she's very, very excited about receiving one of these ID mates. She's already very, very independent and a real go-getter, but this will, I don't think you have any idea how much this will help her.
Well, they've been together for 54 years and are as much in love today as they were on their wedding day. But life for Margaret and Andrew Ferrier has hardly been a bed of roses, although talking to Margaret, you would never know it.
We got married 54 years ago. We were both at a youth councils, as we called them, and he was in the row behind me and drew a picture of me and sent it down and said, "I want to take you home." Well, our boy was only 6 months old when he had his first operation, and he struggled to go back to work and had another operation, then realised he wasn't going to be able to do work on the tools, so he did a lot of study and eventually became a building surveyor so he could work in the office, but in the meantime had a couple more operations, and in the end it just got the better of him where he couldn't walk around any longer, so there was no more work. But fortunately, then I got myself a job at night, 3 nights a week, and that was how I earned the money to keep us all going.
Before all that happened, of course, he built the house you now live in.
Oh yes, he built that. Every stick of it. Well, we knew the pipes were old because, you know, we built the house so many years ago, and we used to say, oh, we must replace those pipes. But of course, not having any wages for 23 years, it makes a big hole in your life because the last 23 years your children have grown up a bit and you've got a chance to do more things with your money and that. Well, we didn't have any. The water pipes got the flow of the water in the kitchen and the bathroom, and that got less and less and less amount of water, and but then the toilet didn't have enough pressure to fill up the cistern, so then I began the bucket brigade. I filled the bucket from the shower and carried it and lifted the lid off the cistern and filled the cistern, and then we could press the button. So every time you used the toilet, Margaret had to fill the bucket. A friend of mine said, you have to get some help somewhere, so that's how it all started. I contacted the Lions Club. I was just saying before that normal living, yes, everybody goes to the toilet and everybody presses the flush the toilet and you don't think anything of it. But when we first got it fixed, it was such a joy. You'd almost stand there and say, oh, look, the water's all coming out. Which is a silly thing, I suppose. I think everybody says to me, and I don't think about it, but everybody says to me, you never stop smiling. Well, I feel I'm happy and I feel I'm blessed with Andrew still with me. You know, after what he's been through, I've still got my husband and we talk and get along well, so that's the main thing.
In his application, Ryan wrote of his strong desire to help save an endangered species in Borneo and of the fundraising necessary to help him achieve that goal.
An organisation called World Challenge, which I found through my school, Forest Hill College, and it's pretty much an organisation where they help us learn in a different way through, you know, travelling and just instead of just sitting in a classroom. This year I'll be going to Borneo, but there's a range of countries where you can go to. One of the main problems is palm oil. A lot of the orangutans are actually getting driven out of their homes because the trees are being chopped down for palm oil, which are used in a lot of products. Well, I've actually got a trivia night coming up in a few weeks, and I've sold icy poles at my school, and I'm also planning in the future to do a Blackburn to Borneo fundraising kind of thing. It's where you walk around to different houses, and each house has a country, and you taste their food and drinks, and you end up in Borneo at the last house. Just experience others just living in a situation, having to deal with situations that you're not going to be in a normal life. I hope just to learn a lot about myself.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there they are, the recipients of the 2012 Valda Twaddle Trust Awards. And now to present those all-important cheques, Awards Trustee James McLeod.